Here's something nobody tells you about feeling out of control. It's rarely caused by the big things. It's not the job, the relationship, the finances, not directly anyway. It's the 100 tiny moments throughout your day where you handed your power away without even realizing it, where life just happened to you instead of for you. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control the wrong things. They try to control outcomes. They try to control other people. They try to control the future. And it never works, which is exactly why they stay feeling helpless, reactive, and exhausted. But the people who genuinely feel in control, they do something different. They don't try to control everything. They just control a few small, specific things every single day. 7 habits to be exact, and they're so subtle that most people overlook them completely. Stay with me all the way to habit number 7, because that one is different. It's the habit that doesn't just make you feel more in control. It actually rewires how you see yourself. Miss it, and the other 6 won't stick. I mean that. Habit 1. Choose your first input. The average person picks up their phone within 90 seconds of waking up. Within 3 minutes, their brain is already processing someone else's news, someone else's opinions, someone else's emergency. And from that moment, the rest of the day feels like catching up, reactive, scattered, behind. Here's the shift. For the first 5 minutes of your morning, you choose what enters your mind. Not the algorithm, not your inbox. You. It could be silence, it could be one intention for the day, it could be a question you sit with like, what would make today feel like a good day? It doesn't need to be elaborate. What matters is the act of choosing, because control isn't just about what you do, and it's about what you let in. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman has spoken extensively about how the first hour of your morning sets the neurochemical tone for the rest of your day. What you expose your brain to first shapes your stress response, your focus, and your mood for hours afterward. 5 minutes, your input, your choice. That's habit 1. Habit 2. Name what you can and can't control. This one is ancient. The Stoic philosophers were teaching it 2,000 years ago, and modern psychology keeps arriving at the same conclusion. Most of our anxiety doesn't come from hard situations. It comes from confusing what we're responsible for and what we're not. Here's the habit. Once a day, when you feel stressed or overwhelmed, take 30 seconds and mentally sort the situation into 2 columns. What's in my control and what isn't? In your control, your effort, your response, your attitude, your next action. Not in your control. Other people's behavior, outcomes, timing, what already happened. Then, and this is the part most people skip, consciously let go of the second column. Not because it doesn't matter, but because holding on to it is costing you energy you could be spending on the first column. Psychologist Dr. Stephen Hayes, founder of acceptance and commitment therapy, found that psychological flexibility, the ability to accept what you cannot change while acting on what you can, is one of the strongest predictors of mental well-being. Not intelligence, not circumstances, flexibility. 30 seconds, 2 columns, let one go. That's habit 2. Habit 3, finish one. Small thing before noon. This habit sounds almost too simple to be worth mentioning, which is exactly why most people never do it. Every day before noon, complete one small specific task that you said you were going to do. Not a big project, not a life goal, something small. Reply to that message, make that appointment, clear that one corner of your desk, something that takes 10 minutes or less. Here's why this matters more than it sounds. Your sense of control is directly tied to your sense of follow-through. Every time you say you'll do something and don't, you send a quiet signal to yourself. I can't trust myself. And that signal accumulates. Over days and weeks, it quietly erodes your confidence in your own ability to act. But the reverse is also true. Every time you say you'll do something, and you do it, even something tiny, you cast a vote for a different identity. I'm someone who follows through. That feeling of self-trust is what being in control actually feels like from the inside. Research from Harvard Business School professor Teresa Amabile found that the single biggest driver of motivation and positive inner work life is what she calls the progress principle. The feeling of making meaningful progress, even in small steps. One small completed task before noon gives you that feeling early and it carries forward. One thing done before noon. Habit 4. Build one predictable anchor into your day. When everything feels chaotic, the instinct is to try and organize everything at once. New schedule, new routine, complete overhaul, and within a week it collapses and you feel worse than before. Here's what actually works. One anchor. One fixed, non-negotiable point in your day that stays the same no matter what. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk at lunchtime. Maybe it's a cup of tea at 4 p.m. where you sit and do nothing else. Maybe it's a consistent bedtime. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's yours, it's predictable, and it happens every day. Why does this work? Because your nervous system craves predictability. When everything around you is uncertain, one reliable, consistent moment in your day acts as an anchor. It tells your brain, not everything is chaos. This is stable. You are stable. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, physician and author, describes this as a lighthouse habit, a fixed point you always return to, no matter how stormy the day gets. People who have even one of these report significantly lower baseline anxiety than those who have none. One anchor, same time, every day. That's habit 4. Habit 5. Slow down. One response. You don't have to reply immediately to anyone. This is one of the most quietly radical things you can practice in a world that expects instant responses. The pressure to reply right away, to texts, emails, social media comments, is almost entirely manufactured. And every time you react immediately, you're letting someone else's timeline run your day. The habit is this. Once a day, deliberately pause before responding to something. Could be a tense message. Could be a question someone asks you in person. Could be an urge to comment on something online. Before you respond, take one full breath, then decide. That pause, even 2 or 3 seconds, shifts you from reactive to intentional. And the difference between those two states is essentially the difference between feeling out of control and feeling in control. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote one of the most quoted lines in all of psychology. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That space doesn't appear on its own. You have to practice creating it. One deliberate pause per day. That's habit 5. Habit 6. Do a 2-minute evening reset. Most people end their day by collapsing. They fall onto the sofa, scroll for an hour, and then lie in bed wondering why their brain won't switch off. The day just sort of bleeds into sleep, and tomorrow starts already feeling like yesterday's leftovers. The evening reset takes 2 minutes, and it does one thing. It creates a clear ending to your day. Here's how it works. Before you shift into wind-down mode, ask yourself 3 questions. What's one thing I did well today? What's one thing I want to do differently tomorrow? And what's the most important thing on my list for tomorrow? You're not journaling. You're not doing a full review. You're just closing the loop. You're giving your brain a sense of completion, which is something it desperately needs but rarely gets. Research from Florida State University psychologist Roy Baumeister found that unfinished tasks haunt the mind far more than completed ones, a concept known as the Zeigarnik effect. The evening reset essentially tells your brain the day is done, everything is noted, you can rest now. 2 minutes, 3 questions, day closed. That's habit 6. Habit 7, practice decided thinking. Here it is, the one that holds everything else together. Most people drift through their days in a state of decided for me. They react to whatever comes up. They do what they've always done. They follow the path of least resistance, and then they wonder why nothing feels intentional. Decided thinking is different. It's a daily, conscious act of reminding yourself that you are not a passive passenger in your own life. You are the one making choices. Even when those choices feel small, even when they feel forced by circumstance, you are still the one choosing how to respond. Here's how to practice it. Once a day, make one decision that is purely yours. Not what someone expects, not what's easiest, not what you've always done. Something deliberate. It could be as small as choosing what you eat for lunch with intention rather than habit. It could be deciding how you want to feel today and then acting accordingly. It could be choosing to say no to something that drains you. The size of the decision doesn't matter. The act of deciding does. Because here's what's really happening under the surface when you feel out of control. You've stopped believing that your choices matter. That's the core wound. And the only thing that heals it is evidence. Real, daily, lived evidence that your decisions shape your life. Every time you practice decided thinking, you generate that evidence. You remind yourself, I am not just responding to life. I am directing it. Psychologist Martin Seligman, founder of positive psychology, spent decades researching what separates people who thrive from those who don't. One of his central findings was the concept of perceived control, the belief that your actions make a difference. It's not about whether you actually control everything. It's about whether you believe your choices count, and that belief is built one small decided moment at a time. One deliberate decision every day. That's habit 7. Here's the thing about all 7 of these habits. None of them are dramatic. None of them require a complete life overhaul or a perfect morning routine or 3 hours of free time. They're subtle. They're quiet. And that's exactly the point. Feeling in control isn't about having everything figured out. It's about showing up to your own life on purpose, in small ways, consistently. Choose your first input. Name what you can and can't control. Finish one small thing. Find your anchor. Slow one response. Reset your evening. And every day decide something that is genuinely yours. Do those 7 things and the noise doesn't disappear, but you stop being swept away by it. And that's what control actually feels like.